Alright, we have a HDS12 on the bench. Um, the original customer complaint was, I guess they didn't know if this was water damaged or not, so they tried disassembling it, and in the process they accidentally broke off the sonar connector from the board. But as you can see, this isn't water damage. We've run into this in the past. Now that I've received a second one like this, I'm confident this is a manufacturer defect. I'm confident it's a manufacturer defect. What it seems like is they fill these, the digitizer and the LCD are sandwiched together. There's a small gap between them, and I believe they fill that gap, that void, with some sort of fluid. It's like a sticky, clear fluid, and I assume that's to prevent any water coming in between those two pieces, the digitizer and the LCD. Creates an airtight seal, but it seems like on the HDS12s, I haven't seen this on any other unit. In fact, I don't even know if they do this process to any other unit. I would assume they do. But the HDS12 specifically, I've noticed that somehow, somewhere, the seal between the digitizer and the LCD becomes compromised. Again, I'm not sure how. And some of that fluid starts to leak out. And when it leaks out, it creates these air pockets, these bubbles in the display, which looks exactly like water damage. It looks just like water inside the display, but it's not. So we kind of know what the job is here. I don't see the sonar traces or pads or pins shorting, so we're going to try to power this guy on. Just plugged in the power connector and it's showing 0 current draw. So in 3, 2, 1. Okay, what's happening is when I press the power button, I see about 500 milliamps being drawn, about 550, something like that. When I release it, 0. 550, 0. 550, 0. So there's a problem in here. Maybe when they accidentally broke off the connector, something else happened. I don't know, but this unit is not powering up, so we can add that to the issues we have to resolve. No power on condition. Sonar connector is broken off, and display. And with that display, that's going to be kind of time consuming. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to tear apart the entire HDS12, take the display out. We're going to have to separate the display with a wire separator. Then we're going to have to clean all that goopy stuff, all that clear stuff out from that from the display and the digitizer, the LCD and the digitizer. It's going to be a pretty nasty job. Once that's all done, we're going to take some adhesive that we'd normally use for putting cell phone screens back on and tablets. We're going to seal around there. We're going to set the digitizer back on the LCD display. We're going to clamp it, let it cure, let it dry, so it becomes a waterproof seal again. Our void is going to be filled with air. I mean, that's as good as we can do. We're not going to fill it with anything else. We don't have anything to fill it with. So we just want to make sure the LCD and the digitizer are super clean as we can get them before we seal it up, because once it's sealed, it's sealed. The adhesive we're going to use, you can break the seal and separate it again with just some heat. So it's not a huge deal, but I'm going to try to get it done right the first time. So we're going to take the rest of these nuts off. We're going to take the T8 screws out, pop the back off, and see what's going on with this board. Looks like we solved the first issue. Everything looked okay visually on the board. There was no burnt um, components or traces or anything like that. And as soon as we tried powering this unit on, it would draw about 500 milliamps and then nothing. So we took it out. We manually tried powering this on by shorting these two pins over here, farthest away from me, which is closest to these sockets. And we get a chirp, quick chirp, and then nothing. Quick chirp, and then nothing. In the meantime, it's drawing about 400 something milliamps. First thing we did, because everything seemed okay, we tested this MOSFET right here. That controls the power on sequence on the board here. That seemed okay. It tested okay. So we popped out the CPU card. The reason is the CPU card, the processor, controls the starting of the board. So if we took the processor card out and we tried to start the board, the power supplies aren't going to fire up on the board. So it's not going to start. The board's not going to power up. You need the processor card. You need the CPU card. So I noticed it was just a little dirty. The contacts were a little dirty. I cleaned them. They're still a little dirty. I gotta clean them a little more, but just took a Q-tip with IPA and give it a quick clean. Still see some dirt still coming off the thing, so not much, but a little bit. As soon as we did that, we plugged it back in, and the board fired up. So our no power on condition, that was a quick one, easy one. That was just CPU card contact issue, no big deal. So we tackled that part of the project here. What I'm going to do now is put the board back on top of the display, because I want to power this thing on with the display to see kind of where we're at, like what we need to do to this thing. How bad is it? Is the display working properly? Is it literally just that fluid issue, or is the display damaged? If the display is damaged, we don't have any HDS12 displays in the shop right now. So if the display is damaged, I mean, it's kind of game over for this unit. What we could do is we could try to get an HDS12 salvage parts unit, but we would have to put this thing on the shelf, contact the customer, see if they want to go that route. If so, we'd have to source one, purchase it, obviously, have it shipped, etc., etc. It's going to take some time. So first thing I want to do is make sure the display is actually working properly. Okay, we don't need our GPS connector. We don't need the buttons because we could just short it. We don't need the SD card connector. We do want the backlight because we want to kind of see what's going on. We do need the LCD display connector, and I'd like to have the touch. So we are going to turn the bench power supply on. I'm going to short these two pins, and we're going to hear a beep. It's going to fire up. And there it is. Yep. And the display does look okay, so we're in good shape here. I'm just going to let this thing start up, make sure touch works. That's really important because we are going to be separating the digitizer, which is the touch screen, from the LCD display. So we want to make sure that touch works before we start messing around with this, because obviously we want touch to work after we finish the job. That'd be kind of a big issue. Okay, we're booted up here, and touch does work. Excellent. Touch works just fine. Obviously our power button doesn't work because we never plugged it in. So let's get that menu up. Let's power this guy off. Okay. Excellent. So everything checks out okay. So now we can start the job of separating the digitizer and the LCD display and get to work cleaning that nasty mess in there. Okay, what we did is we cleaned the digitizer, we cleaned the LCD display. Once it was completely cleaned and we had the orientation correct, we used some screen adhesive all the way around. We sandwiched them together, which I might not have caught on the recording. I'm not sure if it was recording at that time. Sandwich them, and then we gently put them in, again, the correct orientation. We don't want it upside down. Back in this front part of the case, we put the back LCD bracket on. Once this is screwed in, which I put a few screws in here, it'll hold it in place while that adhesive cures. But in the meantime, we want to test this because that adhesive is not cured yet, so we can still take it back apart if we have to. We have to do some cleaning if we do that, so I hopefully can avoid that if possible. But if we gotta do it, we gotta do it. So fingers crossed this is gonna look okay. And touch will hopefully still work as it should. It did work before, so it's a risk you take though when you delaminate these displays. I mean, the digitizer connection to the glass is very fragile. There we go. The outside glass is still kind of dirty, but looks so much better. Looks really good. So my main concern is I just want to make sure that the touch still works here. Okay, this is booted, and touch works. Touch works fine. Okay, one thing we want to do, once we do anything with the digitizer, especially separating it from the LCD, it's really important to recalibrate the digitizer. Let me use my other power connector, my test power connector, just so I can lay this thing flat so it'll show up on the camera a little better here. Okay, because we separated this, it's critical to recalibrate the digitizer. So we're going to go ahead and do that now with the unit powered off. We're going to press and hold this flag button here. We're going to press the power button. You can hear one beep, continue holding this flag. And then there'll eventually be two beeps. Once the two beeps, we can let it go. And we're just going to wait a few seconds here, and we're going to get into the calibration menu. Here we go, in the calibration menu. You want to touch the crosshairs. Continue doing that. Until it goes all the way around the screen. Now it's going to go in the middle. There we go. Touchscreen is now calibrated. Now the unit's going to boot up normally. And we should be good to go with our touchscreen. Previously our touch was off. It worked, but it was off. Now let's see. Perfect. That's how you calibrate the touchscreen on these guys. Okay, so now our display part of this project here is completed. The most time-consuming part. Now we're going to take this board back off again. And we have to work on that Sonar connector. Get all these cables off. There we go. We're also going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in this LCD bracket here. I'm going to do this and we'll get right back. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to clean up this area of the board where the sonar connector was. This is the old sonar connector. So we see through holes right there, got ripped right out of the board. So we're going to have to do some work to this board. We're gonna grab a sonar connector from, I think, from this board here. This looks like a good donor. The sonar connector looks, I mean, it looks brand new. Look at that. Perfect. Beautiful. Okay, we got the new sonar connector on there. While we were kind of manipulating the board, the piezo buzzer, this guy right here. Well, this is actually off HDS5, but this is the one that came off. It just popped right off. So I don't know what happened, but it's it's never happened before. I'm guessing maybe it took a hit or something before it came in here. I guess I'm not quite sure. So we're gonna take this piezo buzzer off an HDS5. It'll work just fine. It's already got wires on it, so we're gonna use it as is. Just solder it in place and hot glue it down. Should do the trick. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see what I'm doing here. Let's see. There. Okay, that's it. New piezo buzzer is installed. We have the Sonar connector, the Sonar socket installed. We fixed the display, reinstall the screws. So we're going to put this together and give it a test. Alright, we're going to give this a shot. We do have transducer connected. For testing, we just have a 10-foot section of pipe up here. Transducer mounted on the end. Everything is like RTV'd up to prevent leaks, and it's just filled with water. So it should give us a depth of around 10 feet. Just gonna let this thing boot up and we'll come right back. Okay. Oh, there we go. So we see a depth of 9.9 feet. That's perfect. All right. So that depth, 9.9 feet right there. So this one's done. This was a time-consuming one. This took nearly all day for us. The display is the most time-consuming part. That the substance they use between the display and the digitizer is just nasty stuff. It's hard to clean. I could see how it would be water repellent. I mean, it would probably work excellent if there wasn't that defect where the stuff would leak out and cause air bubbles, air pockets in there. In any case, this is good to go. We're going to do some more testing as soon as we confirm all the functions work in this unit, which I'm sure they will. Everything seems okay so far. We're going to invoice the customer and get this shipped out. If anybody has any fish finders, whether it be Lowrance, Humminbird, Garmin, anything else, or any electronic devices, we work on all electronics. You can go to www.rudolphrepairs.com. You can email us, rudolphrepairs@gmail.com. If you prefer the phone, 1-800-517-9101. Give us a call, and I'll talk to you guys later.